What's going on, everybody? My name is Hasia Muhammad, and you're listening to The Actor's Instrument. This week's guest booked his first pilot before he even graduated from college, but it didn't get picked up to series. Then shortly after graduation, he booked another, which went to series, but got canceled before the end of the first season. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That's shitty luck. But get this, these creators keep bringing Brandon Micheal Hall back over and over, and before the age of 30, he racked up series regular billing on 4 different TV shows. Today, we're going to get into how Brandon didn't let a couple of cancellations stop him, why he's in high demand in the industry, and how he adopted a nomadic lifestyle during the pandemic, traveling the world without emptying his bank account. I mean, a big reason why I wanted to chat with you today is that I believe that success leaves clues. You know,
success leaves clues. Clues, yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm not a big believer in luck.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we do things maybe accidentally, and it comes off as luck. But you know, I believe that every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you put in the work, if you put certain energy out into the world, like it's going to reap certain reactions, whether they be positive or negative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what I really want to get into today is you turned 30 this year, right?
Yeah.
My man. You turned 30 this year. You've been a series regular on 4 different TV shows. 2 of them, you were number 1. Another one was done overseas, right? And so some people might see that and be like, that's crazy. I mean, it is kind of crazy, but they might say like, that's wild. Yeah, they're like, that's crazy. That's wild. He's really lucky. And I feel like it would be a disservice to you to ascribe that success to luck. You may be an anomaly, but again, I believe success leaves clues. Right. So I'd love to get into some of that today. I'd love to start with your background. I know a lot about you because we grew up in the same state. We went to the same high school. Yeah. I was hearing stories about you before I'd even met you. You were somewhat of a legend at the good old Gov school.
Wow.
So I would love for our listeners to hear your story. How did you find your way to acting? You know, this, black kid out of Anderson, South Carolina.
Man, first and foremost, thanks for the introduction. It's crazy when you hear your work, because for me, when I'm in it, I don't give myself the liberty to sit back and be like, ooh, I've done this body. I can go to this library of work and say, I've done this and reminisce on that. And it's nice. So I appreciate you doing that. Also, I appreciate you saying I was a legend at Governor School, because man, that place was, I don't know about you, dude, but that was a pretty good and rough introduction into what it was like to have acting as your conservative, view of studies, man. It was a place, the Hogwarts of acting. That's what I call it.
That's how I describe it.
Yeah, I grew up in Anderson, South Carolina, and I attended Pendleton Elementary, middle school, high school, and then Sarah Reese, who was the musical theater teacher at my high school. She told me one day, she was like, "You should audition for the Governor School." And I was like, "Okay, what is that? What's the Governor School?" And she said it was a school that was in Greenville, South Carolina. I was like, "Oh, I get to move from Anderson. Great. All right, let's do it. I'm down for it." I got into the school after, the callbacks and the auditions, and I winded up spending 2 years there. And thinking about it, man, honestly, that place helped cultivate what I needed running into college. I felt like the first 2 years of Juilliard, and Jace Thompson has told me this when I had to turn in my last dictionary club entry. I don't know, were you a part of the dictionary club? Did you do that? I started this thing called the Dictionary Club, where I had to read the dictionary and come with 10 words to Jace Thompson every week. Because
he told us about this.
Yeah.
He told us about
I found that I had dyslexia when I was at the Governor School. Pendleton wouldn't test me for dyslexia, because my memorization was not great, but I was retaining the information that I needed. I just didn't work the exact same way. So anyway, so Jace was like, yeah, so you need to learn words. You need to expand your mind. And by the end of it, to be completely honest, I made it down to W, and I finished when I was at Juilliard to Z. But I was reading on a sixth grade level and spelling on a seventh grade level when I got to the governor school. And by the time I left, I had brought it back up, and my GPA rose, and all this other stuff. Also, reading Shakespeare helps with that, and all the classical plays, which makes your brain stretch. But anyway, so that governor school was a very um, big blessing in my life. Um, and so then I went to Juilliard. And like I was saying before, Juilliard, the first 2 years, oh, Jason told me the first 2 years are going to be easy because of how rigorous our work was at the governor's school. Those first 2 years of Juilliard, you're going to feel like you've done this, the iambic pentameter, all these things. This is a moment for you to sit back and learn from your classmates who are not as excelled as you in this stage. Some completely have done this, grad program. Some are completely brand new. But he taught me that was, the first time I learned to keep my mouth shut and start to listen. And I learned so much from my classmates, honestly, more than I learned just about as much as I learned from my teachers. Um, and the same way that I worked, and this ties into what you were talking about, luck. Danny Davila, one of my really good friends, who, Danny went to governor school. He was there when I was there. And we always laugh and joke about how he would come into my room and I would have, Othello sleeping right on my face, like the script right there. Um, or, staying up until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. working. Um, the goal for me at that time at the governor's school was so palpable of getting out of South Carolina. It was a need of doing something bigger than what I thought I was doing in South Carolina. And I just knew that work beget work. And I finally found something that I was passionate about, and I would, talk to my friends about, and um, study completely, like engulf myself into the world of writers and directors and who is this person. And, just the time at the governor's school was, and that Juilliard was for me to cultivate my work ethic because I didn't have one. I knew I was smart, I knew I was creative, but I didn't have the work ethic to really put myself out there. And schools like that, for anyone who is listening who is thinking about going to a liberal arts or a conservatory school, I would personally say with liberal arts first that um, finding that healthy balance, healthy being the main word, between the art and what you have to do, for your other classes. But conservatory, finding that uh, the healthy struggle to make it to the very end and realize that you chose that passion for a reason. Because, as I once heard that, 70% of an actor's job is hearing the word no. Um,
Mm,
that's why I think the struggle is so beautiful, because that other percentage of yes, it feels so good, because you put in that work to overcome those no's. So that was my job in school. My job in school was to work as much as I possibly can and fall in love with the idea of work. Kind of, you inspire me very much this way when it comes to fitness in the gym. Like your grandma's, dude, you can do some of the craziest things with your body. And this thing, I love this thing
the
here.
mace.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's cool. But that's your passion. That's your love, your interest, the thing that gets you up in the morning. And that's what I had at Juilliard. I barely traveled around when I was at Juilliard. I stayed in the practice rooms all the time, working with other artists in the music division and the dance division, trying to find other projects to collaborate on, because that was the big thing of Juilliard, collaboration. They tell us that at the introduction, make sure to collaborate, and then you never see them. It's like I never see any of these other people. But what's so beautiful is, and what I do miss about Juilliard is that, or Juilliard in the governor's school, is creating and being in a space where you're surrounded by art, by new creative art. You can be working on a sonnet in the big, what was it? Is it not B213? What was it? What was the big
D200.
D200? D200.
Yeah, yeah. For those who
Um,
don't know, that's one of our studios
one of our
at our high
studio
school.
spaces.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or you can be at what was the number at Juilliard? What was the big the two number the different studios at Juilliard? I forgot.
I didn't go to the
I
Juilliard
forget.
school.
I'm
So-
sorry. I'm sorry. My apologies. My apologies.
no,
My
no, you're fine.
apologies.
You're
Gov school.
fine.
Gov school. Anyways, but you could be at these places and you can hear someone else working on a symphony down the hallway, or you'll see a dancer, you know, practicing their pirouettes and plies, and you're just constantly surrounded by artists. And I love that, and I miss that. But I definitely took in as much of it as I possibly could while I was there. Um, and yeah, so that's how I really got my start. And to backtrack it all the way to the topic of the question of luck, it's never luck. It's never that preparation meets luck meets, you know, your opportunity. It's never that. It's preparation meets the work that you put in during that opportunity will give you the results. And you can't be mad for the results that you can't be mad of the results for the work that you didn't put in. You just can't. You know, if you didn't put in the work, the results are there. That's what you get, cause and effect. And I think it's just as simple as that, you know. So yeah, it's never luck. I don't believe too much in luck. I just believe in putting in the work, and you'll get your results.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, because even if it's, because some people might say, well, what if I did put in a lot of work towards booking a certain role and I didn't get it? And then I would say, well, it's not that you didn't. It's not that you didn't deserve it. It may just be that it was someone else's time, right? Like
Absolutely.
the world doesn't
Yeah.
revolve around you. There are other actors, other people out there who are they're forging their own journey.
Yeah.
And maybe at that time, that director saw something in that actor,
Yeah.
and that was their cause and effect moment.
Yeah.
So we can't let that take away from the work that we're doing, for sure.
No, and also like it's exactly like going to the gym. You know, I may not squat 250 today, but man, I really hit 210 today. Oof. Remember I was down at 150? You know, it's also that of, you know, I couldn't memorize that sonnet last week, but for some reason it just clicked today. And yeah, I didn't get the, the Shakespeare in the Park role, or I didn't get the studio audition callback, but I learned a lot from being in that position. So next time it's here, I know about it. It's like going to the playoffs. You make it to the playoffs, you may get, cut out, and you have to do it again next year, but you know what it feels like. So that energy is different when you go back into that opportunity.
See, man, it's really great to hear about your journey through school, what you picked up from those various institutions. And again, success leaves clues. It's like you knew that you wanted to get out of a certain city in the state, so you were like, oh, I'll do this. I'll go to this other school. And then from there, you were like, okay, I imagine you had a conversation with yourself about, where do I feel like I would be best suited to continue to learn? And then you choose the next place. When I was choosing colleges, there's so many factors that go into it, but ultimately, when I narrowed down my choices, I based my final decision off of where I thought I would receive the most growth.
Right. Absolutely.
It was you can go after the prestige, you can go after the name, and no shame in doing that, because on a certain level, it doesn't matter. I'm not telling like it doesn't matter. But if you're fortunate enough to have the options on the table that are of a certain caliber, for me at that point, between, say, a Carnegie Mellon or UNCSA or a Juilliard or a RADA, or it's like you're not going to choose something wrong.
Right. No.
Michigan, like you're not going to choose wrong. So at that point, it's like, what's going to be best for you?
Right.
So what is the thing that you felt like you learned at the Juilliard School that helped you the most when you first got out into the industry? Because school and being in the business are two different ball games.
Create your own work. Yeah, create your own work, and be thankful for the artists that you're surrounded around. that you're around. Just be thankful for that, because you never know where their careers might lead. And it's that Issa Rae's kind of quote where she talks about, don't look for the people that's above you, look at the people that are sitting in the rows next to you, because
Yeah.
those are the people you're going to be working with forever. So that's what Juilliard really taught me. I think acting is something that is a muscle that it grows over time and it clicks over time. And it's something, it's just like going to the gym. You have to continue to act and work those muscles. So when it comes to acting, there's a lot of things that Juilliard technically taught me, but they gave me more of an opportunity to be on stage, to engulf myself in traveling abroad and what that means, to fall into the nomadic lifestyle, really. Um, but who taught me the most were my classmates. I'll never forget Max Wartendijk and I. Also, Max, just shout out to him. He just created just finished making a film that's been doing really, really well. So he's still out there hustling, and he just had a kid, so he's Daddy Max now. But Max and I met, you know, that first week, and I remember I was reading the New York Times, and the New York Times had dropped this thing called 18 Actors Acting, and it had like Anthony Mackie in it, and I think um, it had all these other, really, really nice and brilliant actors in it, but it was about like 16 seconds of them doing something in black and white. And it had this really cool jazz music over. You can still look it up. And I told Max, I showed it to him. I was like, Max, I think this would be a really good idea for us to do with our group, something that we can all do together and we'll have it forever. And Max, being Max, was like, all right, cool, I'll make it happen. Boom. Couple months later, no, but actually a month later, we're already doing signups of like, booking out rooms, and Max is producing and putting it out. We put it out on YouTube. This was back in 2011. And YouTube was just really like, everyone was starting to go, and
Yeah, yeah.
Vine was popping at the time. So we put it up on YouTube, and it did really well. And it's still up there, called the 18 Actors Acting. And it's everybody in my class from Group 44. And we had one of the Juilliard jazz musicians do the score. And Bernie Telsey's office, found it that first year, once after we had dropped it, and reached out and gave the guys in the class an audition for an HBO series. Wind up getting the call back for it. And I told him, I was like, I can't do that. I'm going to finish school. But, maybe fourth year, I'll see you down the line, because I know it's coming. But it was a solid opportunity of showing like, oh, if you really just make work with your friends and put it out there, look and see what can happen. And that's, something I try to take the advice from try to use my own advice as much as possible. But, sometimes you get caught up in working. Just you gotta take those jobs, and sometimes you're not able to make those creative outside decisions. But definitely making work with my friends was the thing that I learned from Juilliard, because that work begot the work that came in my fourth year when Bernie Telsey reached out for the mayor. And it was the same one, the same casting agency reached right back. I was like, hey, we got an opportunity for you. They reached out for LFE, which was my first TV show that I did that didn't go. It's the first pilot before I had graduated with Vela.
It was a
Yeah.
medical
It was a
show.
medical drama. It was 2015 up against Code Black. And it was the day of deadline when they were announcing our show. That morning, I'll never forget waking up happy, so ecstatic. It's about to be out there. We're going to network television, medical. And then they chose Code Black. I remember laying in bed and just being like, wow, that's part of the business. But yeah.
You just brought up so many wonderful things that I'd love to unpack. The first being that idea of creating your own work. And I've had many guests. I think almost all of my guests, probably 90% so far, have mentioned creating one's own work. And what I love that you just added on to it is that it doesn't have to be this crazy professional caliber, product. You guys as freshmen in college put together something simply because you were feeling creative, you were feeling inspired, and you put it out there. That's the other part that I think is important, putting it out there. And the biggest casting director in New York City, arguably the country, saw it, called you in. As a freshman, you're getting a call back for an HBO series. And I feel like we put so much, myself included, pressure on ourselves. I created this web series during the pandemic, and but it's funny because from my perspective, I'm like kicking myself because I'm like, oh, I could have done that differently. I could have done that differently.
Oh, of course.
But ultimately, the point is that you do it.
The point is that you get it done.
You get it done.
Yeah, and that, yeah. Keep going.
No, so like you get it done. You put it out there. You learn from it. You create something new. Because like you said, you never know who's watching.
You never know.
You never know your collaborators. That's a big part of it. And I love that the Juilliard School, whether it really happened or not, emphasizes like that idea of collaboration.
And to add to that, you never know who's going to ask you later. I think that's another thing, right? You never know who's going to be watching it. You never know who's going to, want to do something with you and all. But someone's always going to come later on in life and be like, so what have you done? So what have you done? It's like, oh, right. I got something, but it's, 10 years ago, but to stay consistent in it. And I know I came to terms with this year that I'm really good with ideas, but the follow through I challenge on is my challenge. And that's something that I'm working on, to follow through to the end of the idea. So at the end of the day, you just say you did it. You just actually did it. Yeah,
love it. So you graduate from the Juilliard School. Your first, we'll go to the TV realm. Your first TV gig, was it that medical drama, or was it? Okay, great. That there were a few roles. You had one on Broad City, right?
Yeah.
There's another. I think it was a day player role you had.
Yeah.
But then the mayor was pretty shortly after.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
yeah.
How did you go from a delivery guy on Broad City to number one on the call sheet on the mayor?
Tony Hernandez and Lily Burns of Jax Media. It's that is all they're doing. I'll give you the backstory. So 2015, I get LLF. This is the month that we're doing showcase month. So my birthday just passed, and we're doing the silent retreat. That's right. We're walking into silent retreat at Juilliard. We have this thing called the silent retreat, where at the very end of your senior year, you go up to the mountains with your classmates and you're quiet for 3 days, and you're just living and feeling with your castmates and being in the space. Unfortunately, I couldn't be silent because I had to go outside and take calls. But Vela and I were doing that right before we walked the stage. And then after graduation, funny enough, the next day after graduation, I started at Tijuana. I started working at Tijuana on the weekends, and I was a bike courier. And then I had a few, what do you call them? Chemistry reads and callbacks. One was for Snowfall, actually, around that time. And I was flying back from LA, and I did some smaller projects. There was another search party that I did. Max and I did another project together called Airport Run. So I was doing other small things just so I can stay active and working, and also so I can build my IMDb up. But I was flying back from LA, and I was getting on the plane, and I feel this tap, and this guy in the first class was Tony Hernandez. Was like, "Hey, you're Brandon Michael Hall, right?" And I was coming back from a chemistry read, and I was like, "Yeah." And he asked me, "Oh, I'm sorry. I left out something very, very important. Before I met Tony, I had did the episode of Broad City and the characters. So I was already in that wheelhouse of Jax Media. They saw me on Broad City. Now fast forward back to the story. So Tony asked me, he's like, "Brandon Michael Hall, right?" Like, yeah. He's like, "You did a great job on Broad City. I want you to be on the lookout in your email. I have something for you." Didn't tell me what it was. I'm like, "Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right." So about later on that week, I get an email from Jax Media, and they're offering me to audition for Search Party. They had someone, didn't work out, and so they were bringing me in or bringing someone in. So I do the audition. I'm getting word of mouth from my agents at the time about like it's going really well. Da 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 da. They need me pretty fast, so I did one more audition after that, and then I got the role. I come in. They've already shot, I think, for like a week. And I come in and I'm meeting everybody for the first time in the visual scene. There's a scene at the very beginning of the pilot where everyone goes to a visual. And I'm meeting all of these new, like, amazing comedic actors: John Early, John Reynolds, Meredith, Alia, these just brilliant, brilliant actors. The UCB crews, I'm just sitting in the back like, I'm a stage actor. I don't know. We didn't do much improv. Do I go get my red nose and figure out my clowns? I don't. Um, but it goes well. And it was my introduction really to acting on screen. And yeah, so that's how I got to Search Party through Tony Hernandez and Lily Burns, and they kept me on. That contract was actually fascinating, and maybe we can touch on this too. But at the time, TBS, it was on TBS first. They gave me a deal in a way. I can either get paid what the other actors were getting paid, or I could take a pay cut. And for the next 12 months, if I got a leading role, if I got like a series regular on something else, I would be able to take that as well as still be on Search Party. This is what I negotiated in my contract with them. They came back and said, yeah, let's do it. Because I wanted to make more money, but I was like, also, let me go see if I can. I really want to be the lead of a show, so I need to leave myself
Yeah,
open.
yeah.
And as my sister says, everything is negotiable. So I was like, ask them and see what they say. And they came back and was like, yeah, we can negotiate that. You take the pay cut, you get what you get. And for the next 12 months, you go see if you can get you a leading role. And if you do, you can stay on as a series regular. So the 11th month, I get the mayor.
I'm actually glad you told that story because I knew
Yeah.
you were doing both at the same time, and I always
Yeah.
wondered how that worked out.
Every year was something different. But when I got the mayor, I had to fly out to LA and I started shooting that. And that's when I moved to LA. And then I flew back to New York to shoot Search Party. Um, that one was challenging because the mayor was probably one of the most rigorous schedules I've ever had, probably much more rigorous than Juilliard or Governor School. But those two schools prepared me completely for being up that late, for working that late. Like I was saying before, the night shoots. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, y'all need me here at 11? I can do that. I know when to sleep. I have my schedule down. Um, and I was working with Davi Diggs, who's from Hamilton, and so many other amazing things. Bernard David Jones, Marcel Spears, Yvette Nicole Brown, Leah Michelle. And on the weekends, on Saturdays, I would have to go to the studio with David, and we would work on the Mayor album. There's a whole album that we did with like 18 tracks that they used in the show, but they never promoted it outside the show. It didn't make any sense. But then on Sundays, I would go to my line reader, and she would run lines with me. So Monday through Monday, I was working every single day. And so once we had once we stopped shooting the mayor, they made the schedule work for Search Parties, and I booked the flight back to New York, shot that. They dropped literally around the same time, which was great. And then, you know, the story goes
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
But yeah,
Word. Okay, so as long as you're comfortable talking about this, I'm not sure if it's a sore subject or not, but
go for it.
I remember when the mayor came out. I remember South
Uh-huh.
Carolina, there were billboards.
Yeah,
Billboards, you know what I'm saying?
crazy.
Everybody was on social media like,
It's
our guy
wild.
from our hometown is doing the thing. A lot
Uh-huh.
of actors have it in their minds, and I would be willing to bet money a lot of people listening to this show have it in their minds that they just need to book the one thing,
Yeah.
that they just need that one job and their career will be set. But you booked the quote unquote one job and it wasn't renewed. It was canceled one
hmm
season. What
Was it even a full season?
what I don't know. What was it?
We
Did you
shot a full season. Y'all didn't see it.
Oh my lord. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah.
even
No,
better
go ahead.
point. Like you
Yeah,
could get the job, you could be contracted, and that's the thing
yeah.
about a series regular is that I mean you can book a job. I mean, for example, you were talking about LLC. Like
Dylan.
it might not even you might shoot it, and it might not even go to network.
Yeah.
So nobody may ever see the thing, even if you've already shot it.
Nope.
What was it like navigating that? Because you struck gold, you know,
Yeah.
so to speak.
That's a beautiful question. Navigating. Oh man. They all at the time, it was like a like a Tetris, like the mayor, LFE didn't go, so I got to feel what that feels like to get a network show and then not even go to series. Okay, I see what that feels like. Wow. Okay, all right, let's get back to the grind. Then Search Party goes, and it's like, ooh, it's a success. We're going to season 2, but I'm not a series technically series regular. No, I'll cut back on it, which is fine. That's cool. That feels good. This seems stable. Okay, getting little side gigs here. Word, but I'm still not there. Then the mayor comes, and everything in life feels perfect. Everything in life feels, in my mind, surreal. It doesn't even really hit you. Well, some people it hits them in the moments, but like getting off the train in New York and walking off and seeing the hat with Leah Michelle and being,
Yeah.
that's me. They don't even realize it, but they're about to watch me on TV. Like it's fascinating. Like going out to get a pizza in New York and walking back home to a party and someone be like, "Hey man, I like that show." My God, sir, please don't walk up on me. But yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. You know, it's great. And then once again, it goes away. It's all a moment in time. As quick as you get it is as fast as it goes. You have to cherish every single moment. My thing was so addicted to working and so addicted to grinding and continuing going further and further because I wanted it. It was like, this can't be it. This can't be it. That I wasn't healthy to myself at the time. And I didn't understand the value of checking in with myself mentally and emotionally. And that severed relationships that didn't help me when I was trying to make my own outside work. That didn't help me when I was trying to maintain emotionally what that feels like to have everything and then poof, it's all gone. How do you hold on to it? So at the time I wasn't I thought I was doing, I was doing yoga and going to the gym, but it wasn't, that was just because what I was doing in school. I was at a different place in my life and I needed to check in with myself and see how I could help, like how I could maneuver through this space in this time, in this new space. So yeah, that when I look back on it, moving out to LA, bought my first car, like all this cool stuff, like bottles at the bar, like taking my homies out, your billboard, Melrose Avenue, they have a huge mural of and you're doing it with your homies, and it's great. I cherished every single moment. I lived every single moment vividly. I can still feel it. But when the lights were turned off, when I had to go back home and be with myself, I don't think I ever checked in with myself. And I think that's where I fell short. So now, when you have something like God Friended Me that goes on and it does 2 seasons and you're still working on a search party, now I have a moment of being in a space and saying, okay, how can I utilize those other tools that Juilliard and Governor School taught me? How can I utilize Alexander and find my breath? Why is my jaw so tight? Oh, because I haven't been doing my warm-ups anymore. I don't walk around with the cork anymore. I need to go get cork, get the two finger, the two
Yeah, yeah,
finger
yeah,
trap,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just sitting around on set. I need to stretch more.
Uh,
I need to fast. I need to
mm.
read other things outside of these scripts. I need to love myself genuinely outside of this because it's not going to last forever. That's what it taught me. With any audition, it doesn't last forever. with any role, it doesn't last forever. Any moment, it just doesn't. And you have to find ways to live in those moments as calmly and peacefully as possible and realize, like, man, this is great. It's okay, even in the bad days. Because when you're up at that top, even, with the billboards and the album dropping, and you also still have bad days. And
Yeah.
on those bad days, how do you still say, you know what? Oh, it's because I didn't go to the gym. I didn't go to the gym. Oh, you know what? I ate something bad yesterday. That's probably what it is. I didn't check in with my nutrition. Maybe I just go lay in the park. But that's what it felt like at the time. It was an adjustment of being on top, and how do you stay on top? Because getting there is easy. Getting there is always easy. But staying up there, maintaining it, even when other people don't see your success, that you know that you're still there. You
Right.
know, that's
Right. Right.
another thing. Setting your own self-worth and your own idea of success, even when the work is not being put out there, and seeing your vision, as Monia Kim used to say at Juilliard in our movement class. You have to see your goal. Your goal has to be vivid. You have to write it down, as the good book says. Write it down, make it plain. That's it. If it's not written down, it's not going to happen, ever. And you have to wake up and see it every single day. You have to visualize it every single day, manifest it, and put in the work to get there. Um, but yeah, that's what it taught me. That's a great question.
Thank you. Thank you. So this journey of self-care, is that where your nomadic lifestyle has been born out of? Is that where that comes from?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, in a sense. Also, now there's no work, so you got to go to the other place where the dollar goes a little bit further. Um,
No,
I
that's
I
smart.
I fell into the nomadic lifestyle after during COVID. I loved living with my roommates. I had roommates in New York. It was three of us to a house, but it always felt like more people, and I loved that. And then I moved back down to the South at the top of the pandemic. Did some investments, did right during the pandemic. Um, and I started just staying in I bought my mom a house, and I started staying in the back room of the house. I was like, I'm not paying rent. Go back to New York and pay rent. That's makes no sense. And even though that was a battle, because it was like, man, you're 20, I was 26 at the time. It's like, I need to
Yeah.
have a house. Like, who's going to talk to a guy? Yeah, I'm on the TV show. Where do you live? At my mom's house. Well, I was like, no, I'm going, no. But the universe set me up in a really good way, which that's a conversation as well. But um, I started realizing, I was like, I've never wanted a lot of things. I've never been a person of having a lot of material possessions. Just never been my thing. And um, I once heard, and sorry to quote him, but if any viewers are completely against him, but it's just a quote that I kind of live by a little bit now. Is Kanye West had had once said, he lives the size of his suitcase. His suitcase is his house. And I was like, that's how can I fit my life into a suitcase so I can go and see the world? I've always wanted to see the world. And so that's what I did. I minimized my expenses. I got some financial literacy under my belt, and I just started traveling a little bit at a time. I started learning about off season and peak seasons, and how you get flight miles, and places where the dollar goes a long way, and places that I've always wanted to see, and do I like driving or flying or taking a train? Like all those different just ways of doing that. And then at the top of the pandemic, I started to see in the news about nomads, this word nomads, and living the nomadic lifestyle. And I was like, oh, I like this. And countries are offering you money to come live in their country as a nomad if you work online. And then I started meeting all these people that was like, yeah, I just work on my computer a couple of days. I'm a tech guy, live in Bali, I do this, that, and the third. I fly back to New York when they need me. Other than that, I save my money and I live here. And I'm like, wow. Or people going to go teach English in Japan or South Korea just because they've always wanted to go. And the government pays for them to come. And they teach English during the day and they travel the world at night. These little groups that pop up, like, yeah, how about we all just go into business and work online? it sparked me to go back to school. Like I'm doing a certificate program right now at Harvard University for computer science, because I want to learn and work part time using that side of my brain again. I got 5 more weeks of that left, so that's exciting.
Brandon,
But yeah,
you just opened this can of worms that I feel like I'm so grateful that you just brought this up, because we have in our minds, we especially social media right now, we make up stories about other people's lives that we believe, we tell ourselves, and in my mind it's it's the attributor for all of the depression that's going on in our world right now. I mean, and particularly in the arts, actors, our career, our industry is so unstable, and we see other people living our dreams, right? We see other people living our dreams, and we put that as a reflection on ourselves, like, oh, I'm not doing as well as I could, I'm failing, da da da. I mean, I've had friends tell me like, oh my God, Hasim, you're working all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I'm like, no, I'm
I
not.
didn't work today.
Right? I'm like, matter of fact, I'm like,
I
it's
stayed
been
in the bed today.
right. I'm like, everybody, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the work I have done, but the day after I won the Helen Hayes Award, bro, literally my fiance and I, we drove to DC for the ceremony. We stayed at a friend's house. We left at 3 a.m. the next day so I could come back to New York to teach. I was teaching a social justice residency to elementary schoolers.
Wow. Good Lord.
Right.
That's amazing.
So it's like,
Congratulations. And also congratulations on getting married, man.
oh,
Hope
thanks,
I'm
man.
invited to the wedding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
So it's like I bring it up because it's like, we reach these highs, right? You're talking about the mayor. You're on billboards. People are stopping you in the streets like, hey, man, congratulations. And it's, you deserve all of that. And at the same time, there's a bit of an illusion behind it.
I always have to remember that, yeah. You're
You know,
living your
like,
dream. You
right.
got to remember, you're living literally the dream. So
Right.
dream, you got to wake up at some point.
Right. But you were so smart because, like you said, you put a focus on financial literacy.
Yeah.
I mean, we just saw Billy Porter just had to sell his house.
I don't understand it.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't get it. I don't get it, not one bit, but we can talk about it.
Yeah. There's another actor who I won't name, but who I know of, who, and I'm not bringing this up to dog on them. I'm saying you can make a lot of money. I know there are actors who've been on Broadway, major studio films, and have no money. They have no money. And you have curated a lifestyle for yourself where you're traveling abroad, you're doing what you want to do. But the illusion is that, oh, well, Brandon's just like a multimillionaire who's traveling the world, and who's like just balling and everything.
Yeah,
and
they Google that. They Google that.
And here you are, you're sitting here and you're like, oh no, actually,
I'm gonna jug of water.
You're like, actually, I went back to school so
Yeah.
I can make money doing things online so that I can have this
continue.
lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, man,
Absolutely.
that's brilliant.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
brilliant.
I live out my suitcase. I've been living out my suitcase for the last 4 months now before I went home back to Charlotte. Literally the same. I pick up some clothes along the way, but I don't buy much. I don't have expenses. I gave that up. I realized what was an asset and a liability to me. Now, granted, when you're on the road, that's completely different. That's why you got to go to places where the dollar goes a long way. I knew that. Jay-Z says, he said in an interview once, he was like, yeah, it's easy to make that first mill. It's easy to make that first two. But when time comes and at the end of the day, who are going to be the ones standing saying, yeah, but I flipped that? You know what I mean? I didn't spend that. We see it. I mean, the lessons are there. We see it happening every single day with sports, in entertainment, in anything. People make money, and then a year later, they're like, yeah, but I ain't got it no more. Why? And the better question is, what happened? Why is good, but what caused that? And then we read the articles. Oh, you spent it on this. You did this. You didn't put it here. You didn't put it here. And I always knew that I was wealthy. I was never rich. But I realized that when you do get some money, you got to put that money away. Money begets money. And the more you spend money, the more you give money into the cycle and not investing in yourself, the more you're going to lose money. So I took that opportunity during the pandemic because I also remembered, like, man, last time we had a pandemic like this, or last time the world was like shaken during like the financial crisis and the housing epidemic, I remember people was making a lot of money. Just some weird reason, people got rich during the last crypto boom, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should take that road. So I invested most of my money. I invested a majority in real estate. I built a portfolio. Invested mostly in real estate, a few properties in the South. Me and my mom went on that together. Bless her. If it wasn't for her and I really collaborating, me saying, hey, I got this idea, and her saying, well, I got the client, so here we go. Because I will never sit back and be like, yo, you ain't got nothing. How?
Facts.
Whose office do I need to come to? But yeah, I just started investing into the stock market, getting into that, and learning as much as possible. Yeah, what were you about to ask?
No, I was just saying, and this is what I mean when I say success leaves clues.
Uh-huh.
Like, your financial success has not wholly been dependent on your bookings and your resume, right? And that's
my way of living.
Right, exactly. And that's the fallacy that a lot of actors buy into, is that, oh, well, some actors get really rich, the 1%. So if I just do that, then I'll just be rich forever. And it's like, my dad has this saying, which I love, which is, you can be broke at a high level.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen it.
There are people with mansions who can't afford to heat them in the winter.
Yeah.
Who can't go out because their bank accounts, like you said, they've hit zero. Whereas, the fact that you took it upon yourself to study, to invest. And for those who are listening, maybe you had a lot of capital up front, but the thing about the stock market is you don't need a lot of upfront capital to reap benefits. If you max out your IRA annually for 30 years, you'll be a millionaire, cash flow millionaire. Easily. And that's just like, if your investments have average return, if you just put it into any mutual fund.
Let's not even talk about doing dividends.
Right. Yeah, reinvesting your dividends, and then it's like, oh Lord. And this is the kind of stuff that actors, I think, we need to get more on top of.
Yeah, they don't teach it. I have yet to walk past an actor who went to liberal arts or conservatory school where they didn't have a full year of learning financial literacy for actors. It is not something that is... Did you have that at your school? Did you talk about business and finance? Or did they try to squeeze it in the fourth year like they did for us?
So two things. One, the drama department, no, not at all.
Okay.
We did have an elective in our liberal arts department.
The electives.
And I took that class along with another small group of people. Bro, that same budgeting spreadsheet that our teacher, Dave Olson, rest in peace, I know that he gave us, I still use that same budget spreadsheet till this day. This day. The second part of what I was going to say is, I'm currently working. I'm not going to make a huge announcement right now, but I'm working on something. I feel like there's a lot that we're not taught in school from the business side of things. And I want to bring it to schools. I want students to understand how to invest, how to budget, how to create their own work. I feel like art schools do an excellent job. The Juilliards, the UNCSAs, the Carnegie Mellons, at producing the best products. Right. But a product is just a product.
Yeah, if it's not filled with anything or has any substance, it's going to fail every time.
Or if it has nothing to move it. Yep. If it's not being marketed. You could be if Steve Jobs created the iPhone in his garage and didn't tell anybody, then who cares? You have this wonderful product, but nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving us some insight into your process. Because like I said, I think that there is a misconception that actors book one job, they're set for life. And you're good to
You
go.
know, as Jay-Z once said, I'm making short-term goals when the weather flows. Like that's Reasonable Doubts is the album that helped me understand finances when I during the pandemic. And going back to the whole thing, like, certain actors, and he's not the only one, and I hope everything works out with him financially, of, certain actors losing houses or stuff like that. I, the job is just forever fleeing. Why would I need for a big house? Like, why would I need that? I need to invest for when I'm not working, for when times like this happen. I need to make those short term goals when the weather folds. Like, I have to see the future. I have to see when I'm older and I'm not booking the roles that I wanted to. I can be like, oh, okay, that young 20-year-old me helped me out, But, everyone is different. Everyone needs what they need, and I totally understand that. But the profession that we have chosen doesn't really, it doesn't give to that. At least I don't believe.
No, and I'm 100% there with you because our industry, like we are in the business of losing our jobs.
Our industry doesn't care about us, but yeah, go.
It doesn't. I mean, quite
Yeah, no.
literally, we have the AMPTP trying to get, our image and likeness. Anyway, so that's another conversation.
Please.
But we are in the business of losing our jobs. Every job you take has an end date.
Yeah.
And if you're in theater, they'll tell you up front, this is closing night.
Yeah.
Here's your possible extension.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
so the fact, like you said, that more actors don't prepare for that rainy day when you know it's coming.
It's gonna
Your contract, it's not a surprise. Like
No.
you were talking about preference. How about reality?
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It will end. What is SVU is the longest running show on TV.
Uh-huh.
There may be a couple of NCISs, maybe 15, 17 seasons,
Uh-huh.
Criminal Minds, but like those are, I mean, we could name them, right? On probably
Uh-huh.
one hand, two hands. That means every other job out there
It's gonna end.
is less, will be less.
So why
Well,
you got to
like
create your own work, so you never hear someone else say, just make
100%,
your own thing. You'll always be employed.
100%. So what
What's
is,
that checkoff line that he says at the very end of Uncle Vanya? We work, we work, we work.
man,
That's it.
yeah, it never
That's
ends.
What are you about to say?
So this, my thematic question that I try and ask everybody,
Lovely. Lovely, please.
the show's called The Actor's Instrument, right?
Yes.
As I said at the beginning, you're an anomaly. I don't think it's because of luck, but I do believe you have proven yourself to be the exception. What you have achieved in your first 8-ish years in your career, many, many actors never will ever. And I want to know what you attribute to that success. What is the quality? What is it about your instrument? Because something else that I think is really fascinating about your career that we should pay attention to is we can talk about all the show that didn't go, the show that got picked up for a season and canceled, the show that got picked up for 2 seasons and canceled. But the thing is, Brandon, they keep bringing you back.
Wow.
And I think that that's a clue into there's something beyond the shows, because shows can get picked up and canceled for reasons that we have nothing to do with. But why do they keep calling Brandon Micheal Hall in?
Wow. Oh my goodness, what a question.
And I'm asking you to be a little self-centered.
Yeah, no, you are. That's throwing me off a little bit. When we talk, what it is my willingness. It's a few things, but off the top, and not to get too talk about myself, but it's my willingness to learn, because I think you can always see discovery in my eyes when I'm on the screen. Constantly learning something new. I'm constantly talking to people on set and trying to understand different positions. So I think having that camaraderie, which leads into the next one, which is I'm not afraid to get scrappy. And I think my what do you call it? Not record, but my work that precedes me, my reputation that precedes me is why they keep bringing me back. Because they know I'm down to work. They know I'm down to shoot the late hours. Even on projects where I'm not getting paid, I'm down to do it if I love it. I've worked on so many projects that haven't gotten paid. and just wanted to be in the essence of working. And I always have a good time. And those conversations, they go to every department. Um, and they've trusted me. They have my trust. They have my trust. No, they have my trust, which they trust me. There we go. They trust. They know that I can bring the work that they need, and that's to whatever producer or casting agent that they know I can deliver, and I will deliver every single time. There is no denying that. Um, and so, yeah, that my scrappiness, my reputation, and my my willingness to learn is why I believe they keep bringing me back. That's why I would bring anyone back.
No doubt, no doubt. Boom, there it is.
That's a great question. That's a really good question.
Like I said, I don't
Wow.
think I don't think the career you've had is on accident. So thank you for giving us a glimpse into your process. You know, Brandon, I've looked up to you for a long time. You know, when I first heard about you in high school, you might not know that. I don't think I've ever told you that. You know, but yeah,
Thank you.
but growing up, it was like that's the goal. And so to hear your process, to kind of get a peek behind the curtain, the truth
Yeah.
of it versus the stories that we make up about the people we idolize, you know, it's been really insightful. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing me onto your show, man. I really appreciate it. And for you to give a platform for actors to learn and other artists to learn and to talk about their process, because it's nice. It's really nice to be on both sides of the mic. So, yeah, I really appreciate that. And thank you for what you said. I've also looked up to you from a distance. So, you know, I'm trying to push that weight, bro. Keep pushing weight, bro. I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying?
You got it. So, how long are you in the city?
I'm in the city until Monday, but I'm working. So
bet. Well, we'll make it happen.
In the morning. Get my steps in.
Bet we'll make it happen.
Yeah,
we'll hit the gym
for sure.
All right, brother. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Of course. And if I can leave the listeners with like one last thing, is in this time of uncertainty, just find something that you can make certain. You know, there's a lot of things that are very uncertain. If that means going back to school, if that means, you know, changing that job to go get something else that you feel more comfortable in, if that means trying something new that you've been wanting to try for a minute, I think now is the time to redirect focus and really pour back into ourselves, so that when the time comes, when all this madness and the smoke clears, we'll be prepared and healthy to really take on this fight. So yeah, just, you know, everyone be encouraged and keep listening to shows like this so it helps you, uplift you.
My man, that's great advice. Thank you, Brandon.
Sure.
Thank you for listening to The Actor's Instrument. I'm Hasim Muhammad, and you can follow me at Hasim Muhammad and the show at Actors Instrument Podcast on all social media platforms. The Actors Instrument is a presentation of Red Letter Entertainment. Executive producers, Adam Jellicourse, Serena Esposito, and yours truly. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and check us out at theactorsinstrument.com. We'll be back next Tuesday. Till next time, y'all. Peace.